of how to be intelligent. My name is Candidas. So let's start with a question. Who here wants to be intelligent? Okay, almost everyone wants to be intelligent. Why? Why? Maybe still a bit too much reverb happening. Can you turn it right down? Is that the right mic? Changing? I think that makes it getting better. Yeah. Is that better? Do I not sound like I'm in an opera house? Yes. Okay. I think that's better. Yeah. All right. Okay. You want to be intelligent. Everyone here wants to be intelligent. Why? What's so great about being intelligent? Anyone? Why do you want to be intelligent? Freedom. Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Mistakes are painful.
You don't want to make mistakes. Yeah. You can avoid mistakes. Okay. What else?
Pursuit of knowledge.
You like having knowledge. Yeah. Honorable. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
Efficiency of problem solving.
Yeah. Solve problems. Yeah. All good reasons to be intelligent. All right. So we will be talking about tonight this topic of how to be intelligent, how perhaps you can increase your intelligence, because intelligence is not a fixed thing. Studies have found that there have been countless scientific studies of can you increase human intelligence, or is it just are you just left with whatever you're born with, or can you increase it by endeavoring in some way through your life? And summarizing all the studies, scientists have concluded that the amount of intelligence that you're born with versus how much you can increase is between 30 to 90%. So basically, you have no idea. but at least there's a chance. So, overview of tonight. We'll talk about what is intelligence. We'll talk about different types of intelligence, talking about increasing intelligence, spiritual intelligence, what that means, and how to use the spiritual intelligence to reason and come up with intelligent conclusions. So if that sounds all right, we'll get started. All right, what is intelligence? When most people think about intelligence, they think about this concept of IQ, intelligence quotient. A number that measures, you can take a test, you get a number at the end of the test and tells you how intelligent you are, right? And some people are extremely intelligent, and some people are less intelligent. And there's kind of a bell curve. Most people are in the middle. Some people have some outliers either side. And that's what most people think of intelligent. I'm supposedly intelligent. I haven't done an IQ test for a long time, but supposedly people tell me I'm intelligent. Okay, whatever. But how about someone whose intelligence is probably the highest IQ ever recorded? 260. That's like higher than René Descartes, higher than Bobby Fischer, higher than Pascal, higher than Darwin, Mozart, all these things, higher than Einstein, 100 points higher than Einstein. Who is this person? Who is the most intelligent person? And did it give all the benefits that you mentioned of freedom and knowledge and all these things? Let's see. His name was William James Sidis.
William James Sidis was born in Boston on April 1st, 1898, to two prominent doctors, Boris and Sarah Sidis, who were pretty impressive in their own right. And so when William was born, he became something of an experiment to them to see just how smart you could make a human being. Boris being a psychologist, I'm sure it was a challenge he couldn't possibly resist. So they spent their life savings on lessons and books for the young William. Luckily for them, he had inherited their natural brilliance, and by the age of 2, he was reading the New York Times and writing letters in English and in French. By age 6, he was a polyglot with a mastery of English, French, German, Russian, Hebrew, Latin, Turkish, and Armenian. You know, like you do at age 6. By the age of 8, he constructed his own language called Vindergood, which he detailed in a book he wrote called the Book of Vindergood, which also detailed the origins of Roman numerals in the base 12 number system. At age 9, he won admission into Harvard, but they thought that was too young and made him wait until he was 11 to enroll, because that's more reasonable. Well, there he proved to actually be smarter than most of the professors and gave lectures on fourth dimensional bodies, which drew hundreds of people. William graduated cum laude from Harvard at age 16 and actually did a little bit of teaching in mathematics for a while. And then he kind of dropped out of sight. It seemed all the attention he was receiving throughout his life had begun to take its toll on him. And he told a reporter, quote, "I want to live the perfect life. The only way to live the perfect life is to live it in seclusion. I have always hated crowds." So perhaps the greatest mind of all time went into total seclusion. Until 1919, when he was arrested for holding a political demonstration. which I didn't think you could be arrested for. In court, he blamed society's problems on religion and capitalism, which clearly won over the judge because they gave him 18 months in prison. And at age 42, he was reached out to by a reporter from the New York Times to find out what had happened to this child prodigy from back in the day. The story kind of made it sound like he went crazy, which, okay, maybe that wasn't very hard to do. But William took offense to this, and he successfully sued the New York Times for libel, and then sadly and unexpectedly died 2 years later of a cerebral hemorrhage. So much potential, and yet he remains nothing more than just a historical footnote.
So yeah, the smartest person that ever lived didn't really do much, apart from being incredibly impressive in school. So maybe there's more to intelligence than just measuring this raw IQ number. If you read the Krishna literature, it explains that the most intelligent person in our universe is an extraterrestrial being called Lord Brahma, artist's depiction of Lord Brahma there, who is the architect of the universe, created several planets, and generally is said to have a body made out of pure intelligence. Greatest mathematician in the universe, supremely intelligent, and through reincarnation, any of us could obtain a body of a similar degree of intelligence as Lord Brahma. And that's a bona fide process. So if you really want to be extremely intelligent, have the highest IQ in the world, you can read the process, how you can become a Brahma of your own universe. And if that sounds a bit far out, well, we'll come back down to earth for now. Just to kind of whet your appetite. Okay, definition of intelligence. From the Oxford Dictionary, the ability to learn, understand, and think. If you want to be intelligent, you have to learn, you understand what you learn, and think. Seems reasonable. But certain Greek philosopher gave a slightly different definition of intelligence. So this is kind of a not commonly understood definition of intelligence. But if you look at the very smart Greek philosophers, they said something like,
Socrates. Hey, we know that name. Yeah. Hey, look him up. Oh, it's under Socrates. Oh, yeah. Socrates. The only true wisdom consists in knowing that you know nothing.
So yes, Socrates said the only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing. And of course, remember Keanu Reeves when he was young? Yeah, he already was a good actor. He's done a lot, hasn't he? So this is a completely different definition of intelligence. Understanding you know nothing, which means, of course, that you don't arrogantly assume that you know anything, because then you stop learning. If you understand you know nothing and you have everything left to learn, then you can learn so much more. You can never know everything. So this is a very humble definition of intelligence, and you find that most so-called intelligent people don't meet this definition because they think they know something, and then they can't learn anything anymore. So if you look into the Krishna literature, it says, okay, so that's a very good definition of intelligence, also from Krishna. But what are levels of intelligence? Do you measure the IQ score? And is IQ of 100 average, 160 genius, 260 impossibly genius? You measure, you put a number to it? No. Krishna literature says something different. It says that there's 3 levels of intelligence. First class intelligence is the ability to learn by hearing something. You hear some knowledge and you can learn it, you can understand it. Second class is you hear something, you don't quite believe it, you have to try it. You experience it and you go, okay, yeah, I've learned, I've understood by experience. And third class is you experience something repeatedly and you still don't learn. You go, let me try that again. No, didn't work, okay. Try that again. No, didn't work. Try it again. You keep going and going. Which is the most common type of intelligence today. Because most people repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again. you say the most what's the saying? The most common lesson of history is that no one learns from history. And how many people have been in a situation where like, I'll never get drunk again? How many times have you heard that? Have people say that before? Yeah. So many times. That's third-class intelligence, not learning despite sufficient experience. All right, moving on with our definitions of intelligence. IQ is clearly not enough. There's different types of intelligence. Just intellectual intelligence, like William James there, who had incredible amount of intellectual power, but maybe was lacking in other types of intelligence. So there's different types of intelligence that serve different purposes and provide different benefits. Obviously, if you have a high IQ, you do well in school, maybe get a good job, but there's so much more. So let's go through IQ, EQ, are kind of commonly known ones, emotional intelligence, EQ. Then there's also health intelligence, which I will call HQ, and spiritual intelligence, SQ. We'll define these and see what they do and what the benefits are. Okay, let's start with IQ. IQ, if you don't know, has been increasing over the years. People are getting higher and higher IQ scores, and they have to keep readjusting the scale, so 100 is average. 200 years ago, if you asked a Russian farmer, and researchers 200 years ago, who still have the writings, went around and asked this question: what do these two things have in common? It's a crow and a carp. Anyone?
Eyes.
Hmm?
Eyes.
Eyes? They both have eyes. Okay, anything else?
They both have 4-letter names that start with C.
Oh, okay, yeah. Anything else?
They both have animals.
And both animals, yeah, great. You ask the farmer, he's like, nothing. I have absolutely nothing in common. I can eat the fish, I can't eat the crow flies, the fish is in water. One has a beak, the other doesn't. They're completely different. One has feathers, one has scales. Nothing whatsoever in common. What we've learned today in our current society is to put things into categories. They're animals. And their abstract representations in letter form have a similar meaning. All these things, to someone who doesn't have the modern education that we all have, would never occur to someone. The Russian farmer is smart. We haven't increased in our intellectual capacity in 200 years. Just our schooling is different, emphasizing different things, which makes IQ something that we are inherently better at, because that's something that the thing that IQ measures is something that's valued in today's society, and therefore it's something that everyone learns. And IQ tests, like these things called Raven's progressive matrices, which are a common trope in IQ tests, are something like this. What's the next thing in the line? Anyone? Not a trick question.
Square.
No. Sorry.
It's half circle.
Half circle, yes. Half circle. Okay, what about this one? 8, yeah. Maybe you're saying 8. Just see what you just did there. You took an abstract geometric representation of some shapes, analogized that onto an abstract representation of a number representing an amount in the real world, and then analogized that half the shape means half the number. That's amazing. You're all so smart. That's the achievement of modern education, to be able to do this kind of abstract reasoning that was completely impossible even just a few hundred years ago. No one could do this. So that's IQ. That's valuable, that's significant, but that's not the first story. How about emotional intelligence? Anyone here really good at that? What is she feeling? First picture. This is a real EQ test I took these pictures from. What is the young lady in picture 1 feeling? Anyone?
Confused.
Amused? No.
President.
No.
Surprised.
No.
Irritated.
Angry, yes. She's like, what are you doing this for? Okay, picture number 2. Much harder, eh? Picture number 2. It's something not generally taught in school. Sorry? Sadness? No. No. Yes. She's like, oh, scared. Oh, shouldn't have done that. Ugh. Yes. Number 3.
Judgment.
Yeah, I kind of think that's yeah. Any other words for the same thing?
Anger.
Not necessarily anger. Not like the first one where she's like, oh.
Disgust.
Yes, disgust. She's like, ugh, ugh. Disgusting. Ugh. No. And number 4.
Smug.
Smug. Yes. Yeah, she's like, you got nothing on me. Alright, yeah, so EQ, emotional intelligence. Completely different. Someone that scores really highly in IQ is generally hopeless at this kind of test. Also, really significant for doing well in society, being able to understand what people are feeling, relate to them. Alright, HQ, health intelligence. Here's a whole bunch of things you can eat or drink. So which of these have you eaten in the last week? If you think about that. Which of these have you enjoyed eating in the last week? Which of these people with high health intelligence tend to understand what they should put in their body, what is healthy and what is not, and actually enjoy having things that are healthy? Whereas people without this health intelligence, who may be supremely good at emotional intelligence, supremely good at intellectual intelligence, terrible at health intelligence. I have been around many very, very smart people, far smarter than myself, able to do amazing things in artificial intelligence. Professors at universities, smartest people alive. Terrible health intelligence, oh my God. What they eat, my goodness. I'm like, how can you be so smart and eat this kind of stuff? Oh. Okay, test for you. What's the most healthy foods on that picture? What should you eat nearly every day?
Vegetable.
Which one? Something on the picture.
Broccoli.
Broccoli, yeah, broccoli is extremely. What else?
Blueberry.
Blueberries, yeah, high in oxidants. What else?
Almonds.
Almonds. Nuts, yeah. You mentioned linseed. Yeah, linseed is probably the most healthy thing that you can have on the whole list, along with broccoli. What's the least healthy? Diet Coke, yes, very, very good. Has no nutritional value whatsoever, and gives you cancer, and actually makes you gain more weight. Because the aspartame, I looked this up, there's new studies coming up. The aspartame, that's the artificial sweetener in Diet Coke, fools your body into thinking it consumes sugar when it actually hasn't, and that reduces the liver enzyme alkaline phosphatase, which protects your body from, which tells your body that you're full and you've had enough to eat. So you keep eating because your body never triggers the I'm full signal because the enzyme is reduced by the aspartame. So you actually gain weight by drinking Diet Coke, even though it does nothing else for you. So, good, here. So if people with high health intelligence can generally do this to the list and go, stuff in the bottom I'm not going to eat, generally, or reduce in that order. And stuff on the top I'm going to have lots and lots of every day in that order, roughly that order. And if you're thinking, whoa, look, the tuna has the word good on the jar, it must be good for me, right? I mean, yes, you say the fish has lots of omega-3 fatty acids, which are healthy, but also has incredibly large amounts of mercury. Tuna currently has 60 micrograms of mercury per 100 grams serving, and the maximum amount of mercury recommended for intake without getting sick is 8 micrograms per day. So fish has like 8 times the recommended daily value of mercury. Well, no, there's no recommended daily value. Safe, non-toxic value of mercury. So the oceans are so polluted that fish is no longer healthy for anyone. Eggs are like the highest cholesterol food you can possibly have, cause more heart attacks than anything else. A single egg puts you over the daily limit of cholesterol. Chicken loaded with salt, because they add salt to the chicken to bulk up the weight. And of course, deep fried at KFC and all these things. Full of so many hormones and stuff. Red meat, don't even need to talk about red meat, and the Diet Coke we already covered. So, people with high health intelligence can rattle off these things and go, I'm not going to eat any of that stuff. That's going to destroy my body. Why would I? But someone with high so-called IQ was like, I like meat. Tastes nice. I'll eat it. Like, fool! What are you doing? That's a different type of intelligence. All right. With that out of the way, let's talk about this mysterious topic of spiritual intelligence. It's called SQ, Atma Tattva. In Sanskrit, Atma is the self, the consciousness, and Tattva means truth or wisdom. So, if you look into the spiritual texts of ancient India, they explain in Srimad Bhagavatam, where Sukadeva Goswami says, when asked, what's the most important thing for everyone in all circumstances? He answers, persons devoid of Atma Tattva, devoid of this knowledge of the truth of the self, do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to fallible soldiers like body and family. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. Sufficiently experienced. They still don't see. Remind you of anything? Third class intelligence. You experience and still you don't change anything. You experience something and still you do the same thing over and over again. This is a different type of intelligence. This Atma Tattva intelligence means there's the problems of life. Everyone gets sick. Everyone is born and dies. Everyone has some stress. Some people might be stressed, depressed, suicidal, and still, spiritual stuff, don't have time for that. Something that could be a solution to the problem of life and death and happiness and stress. No, I'm too busy. But you're suffering, you're dying. No, I'm too busy for that. Not interested. Why? Well, because people don't have high spiritual intelligence. It's like the person eating the junk food. It's like, why are you doing this? It makes no sense. Similarly, why are you not interested in an ultimate solution to the real problems of life? Why are you not interested in a solution to problems of birth, death, happiness, depression? Well, some people just don't have the necessary spiritual intelligence, and that's all right. There's ways of developing that kind of intelligence if people want. But Sukadeva Goswami here, a great saint, is explaining that the reality of the situation. There is this separate thing called spiritual intelligence that some people have and other people do not. Furthermore, we go on to learn that knowledge is state-specific. Some things you cannot understand unless you have the right consciousness. Someone, say, is like the person who, like Socrates' definition of intelligence, someone that thinks that they know everything. Like while I'm generally good at programming computers, I'm not very good at management. Secret, don't tell anyone. So there was a time at my work where I was thinking, don't tell me how to manage my team. And I was completely oblivious to all the problems going on in my team until I went, okay. I realized how badly I was managing stuff. Because I was so arrogantly assuming that I knew something about management, I could not learn. Similarly, someone who is arrogantly assumes that they know something about spiritual intelligence, what spirit is, or what actual advanced spiritual life is, they cannot learn. Similarly, someone that thinks that they know how to be healthy, they cannot learn how to be healthier already. So, as an example of this, knowledge being state-specific, let's look at two people who are in a little bit more relatable realm of health intelligence and giving their point of view on what it takes to be healthy. Anyone here into exercise? Who likes exercise? And yeah, lots of people. Okay. What's the optimal diet? optimal nutrition for exercise? Let's find out. According to Mark Lobliner of Tiger Fitness, it is red meat, healthy. And according to Patrick Baboumian, a German-Iranian bodybuilder, it is, anyone here from Germany? Always someone, yeah, oh, a few, yeah. Der Franzenfresser sagt, der stärkste Mann Deutschlands, sagt, es sind Pflanzen. Alright, let's, Mark of Tiger Fitness, let him speak first.
All these bad things they've been saying about red meat are completely incorrect. That essentially red meat isn't bad for you. Red meat will not kill you. Red meat does not increase your risk factors for heart disease, for clogged arteries, and all that good stuff. And basically cutting meat out of your diet is not going to help you at all. Passionate about the climate change issue and trying to reduce emissions and all that good stuff, which is a noble cause, I might say. But let's not lie about it. Let's just be real. Look, beef is fine for you, but you're going to end up killing the earth. Let's talk about that. Can you be healthy as a vegan? The answer is absolutely. Can you be optimal as a vegan? Absolutely not. I don't think you can. You're lacking the higher quality protein from animal products. You're lacking things like B12. You're lacking things like omega-3 fatty acid.
And so, yeah, omega-3 fatty acid, plenty available in linseed. Yes, your body needs to convert them to have a complete acid, but bodies are good at converting proteins, by the way. Just explain, just throwing that in, contradicting it. But let's see what this clip from Game Changers, popular documentary. Let's see what they say.
Ferris was the only male weightlifter to represent the United States at the 2012 and 2016 Olympic Games.
Let me start weightlifting is going from the ground to overhead in one or two explosive movements, the most explosive movements that can be done. When I made the switch to a plant-based diet, they were like, I don't know how you're gonna lift that much weight and you're not gonna be eating anything, you're gonna eat grass, like how are you gonna be strong? I qualified for my third Olympic team, you know what I'm saying? I broke 2 American records. I won the Pan Am Games. I was like, man, like I think I should have done this a long while ago. Like, why didn't I research this before?
And Kendrick wasn't alone. 5,000 miles away, I found another strength athlete named Patrick Baboumian. Patrick is one of the strongest men on the planet, with multiple world records, including the front hold, the keg lift, and the long lift. The only plants, no meat, no milk, no eggs.
Someone asked me, how could you get as strong as an ox without eating any meat? And my answer was, have you ever seen an ox eating meat? I stopped eating meat in 2005. Up to that time, I was 105 kilo, and now I'm 130 kilos. Also at the same time, I set like 4 world records. So when I stopped eating meat, I got stronger and bigger.
At 700 pounds, I could not move the yoke at all. It felt like it was bolted to the ground. And that was just his warm-up weight. It's hard to fathom how strong Patrick really is. It's almost superhuman.
In 2015, he set the world record for lifting the heaviest thing that a human has ever lifted. It's like 1,500 pounds on a yoke, like that, 750 kilograms, and carrying that 20 meters in 30 seconds. So, strongest, which has since been beaten by with this, but completely vegan diet. How's he doing? Yeah, but the guy Mark from Tiger Fitness, he might think you can't be optimal on a vegan diet, but let him do that, any of that stuff. I mean, yes, he would be a strong bodybuilder, but probably going to die of a heart attack soon. Anyway, so knowledge is state specific. Depending on your state of consciousness, you can learn some things and you can not learn others. And knowing something is one thing, but understanding is an entirely different thing. So people might know, okay, I understand that I don't have to eat meat to be strong, have a strong body, but actually wanting to execute on that, being like, yes, now I have to change my life, that's an entirely different level of intelligence. Just like the person that with third-class intelligence that experiences something, hears something over and over again, but still doesn't change their life to match it. Knowing something is not enough. You have to have what's known in Sanskrit as vijnana, realized knowledge, not just intellectual knowledge, but knowledge that's applied in the real world. So the Krishna literature goes beyond even state-specific knowledge. They explain that knowledge has to be relationship-specific as well. So here Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, listen again, O mighty Arjuna. Arjuna sounds pretty strong on the vegetarian diet. Because you are my dear friend, for your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained. So Krishna here is saying to Arjuna, because we're friends and you're listening to me, and you're taking what I'm saying seriously, and I like you, I'm going to, for your benefit, try and explain even better knowledge to you. And you're listening, so I'm encouraged to give you more knowledge, because we have this relationship. If you're just like, I know everything, Krishna, don't tell me, Krishna wouldn't be inspired to give more knowledge. Right? So, spiritual knowledge understanding depends on relationship. The more of a spiritual connection we have to other spiritual practitioners, to the Supreme, all these things, the more knowledge we can get, and the more knowledge we can absorb, because we tend to be more open to it, of course, because we have this relationship, we have the connection. If a friend recommends a movie, we go out and see it right away. If someone we don't care about recommends a movie, we don't think twice about it. Similarly, if someone we have a relationship with says, well, there's this spiritual bit of knowledge that you can learn and you can apply in your life, we go, yes, I'll try that. If someone you meet for the first time you have no relationship with tells you something, then you're like, yeah, whatever. So knowledge, spiritual knowledge is very dependent on relationship, as well as state of mind, as well as, of course, intellectual knowledge. So, how do you do it? What do you do with this? How do you increase your spiritual knowledge, your SQ? How do you increase your ability to benefit from spiritual knowledge? What? Something called deliberate spiritual practice. If you read Bhagavad Gita, again, it explains. Thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness. So the word here, deliberate, means two things at once. Deliberate meaning choice. Everyone has the choice. Can make the deliberate choice. Okay, do I want to apply myself to spiritual knowledge or not? Everyone has the freedom and choice to go yes or no. You can come here, you cannot, or choose not to. You can practice the meditation, or you can choose not to. You can try and transform your life and lifestyle, or not. You can choose to read all the books or not. Everyone has the free choice. No one's forced to do anything ever. And then there is the deliberate practice. Okay, now someone's made a choice. Now they can deliberately choose. Okay, I will every day do 5 minutes of mantra meditation, for example, and then make progress from there. And then that has benefits, and then gradually spiritual intelligence goes on increasing. Also, here in this text explains that knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, and intelligence. So, in order to start applying this, one has to understand what one is transcendental to the senses, mind, and intelligence. So, the Krishna model of the self explains that the body is an outer layer surrounding a layer of mind and intelligence, which is emergency mobile test alert from civil defense. So the government has the ability to let us know if there's a tsunami coming or something. Very good. Protecting us. All right. The self, the consciousness, is surrounded by a layer of mind and intelligence, which is surrounded by a layer of body. So, if you know yourself to be transcendental to the mind, intelligence, and body, it means that the consciousness has control over the mind and body. If the consciousness has control, it can override the demands of the mind. The mind might go, I don't like that. It doesn't appeal to me. But the consciousness goes, no, I will make the deliberate choice that I do want to practice this deliberate spiritual practice. So, this is a prerequisite for applying spiritual life. Knowing that you're having the ability for your consciousness to override mental thoughts, intelligent thoughts, or material sense perception. So with all that established, let's go through an example of how we apply this spiritual intelligence. All right, reincarnation, common spiritual topic. Is it real? Is it fake? People might have an opinion. Some people might think, all right, let's try. Who believes in reincarnation? Some people do, some people don't. Okay, you're entitled to your opinion. But with true spiritual intelligence, you don't need an opinion. You ask the average materialist, is reincarnation real? They say, I want proof. Give me proof. Does your EQ read the emotions of the cat? I want some proof. Reincarnation, real or not, I won't believe it until I see proof. But from a spiritual point of view, here we go again. From a spiritual point of view, if you want proof, if you want proof, you're a fool for wanting proof of reincarnation. And you think, what? How am I a fool for wanting proof? The truly intelligent person will understand reincarnation is true without needing proof, because it's obvious. Everyone's like, what? It's obvious? Don't need proof? What? That's not what I was taught in school. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem with school. So let's go. There's a chain of reasoning here. Okay, first of all, by spiritual intelligence, you can say, just by philosophical understanding, if two things are exactly the same in every way, they must be the same thing, must be of the same nature. If I have two chairs, they're both made out of the same material, have the same shape, have the same color, they're both chairs, they're both for sitting on. Obvious, right? Okay. Now say I'm skeptical cat, and I'm doubting everything in the world. I doubt the chair exists, I think I'm plugged into the matrix, I doubt you exist, I doubt you exist, I doubt my own body exists. It's all an illusion. I doubt the emotion I'm feeling exists. What's the one thing I cannot doubt? I cannot doubt my own doubting. I cannot doubt my own consciousness of my own skepticality. If I doubt my own skepticism, the skepticism doesn't even make sense. So, therefore, this skepticism is of a fundamentally different nature to everything else in the world. Everything else in the world I can doubt, except the skepticism, except the consciousness. So consciousness must be fundamentally different from everything else in the world. If consciousness is fundamentally different, then the body, the mind, intelligence, all these things that Bhagavad Gita was telling us that we need to understand we're transcendental to, those things are inferior energies. The consciousness has control, has the power to doubt all these other things, so the consciousness must be a superior energy that can control and manifest the body and mind. And if that's the case, then if the body dies, the consciousness must continue, right? Because otherwise, if it was the other way around, if the material body created the consciousness, then the body could doubt the consciousness. But it's the other way around. The consciousness can doubt the body. Therefore, the consciousness must be superior, and the body must be inferior. Superior things can create inferior things. A person can create a chair can create a person. So, consciousness creates bodies, which means that if the body dies, a new body must come. So when Bhagavad Gita explains, as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the consciousness similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up old and useless ones. That makes complete sense. So therefore, reincarnation must be true. No evidence required. And if you didn't follow that, well, time to work on some spiritual intelligence. And now for the rest of us who do not have some spiritual intelligence, let's look at some evidence, just for the sake of it. Even though it's unnecessary, but it's kind of nice sometimes for the lesser intelligent people like me, who's like that spiritual reasoning stuff. It's not ultimately convincing for some reason. I must be stupid or something, but some evidence would be good.
So with our work, we've now studied over 2,500 cases. The children can come out with very specific details, sometimes names, for somebody who lived quite some distance away, sometimes quite some time ago, and yet the details all fit. And then along with the statements, the apparent memories, the children will show a lot of emotions or behaviors that seem to fit also. We have a lot of cases. One that I studied fairly recently was, there's a little boy in Oklahoma, which is in the southwest U.S., who started saying that he'd had a life in Hollywood and would get very upset about it, cry about missing his life. So his mom checked out a couple of books on old Hollywood from the library to see if they would stimulate more specific memories so that he could deal with them. Well, they were looking through them one day, and there was a picture from an old movie, and he stopped and pointed at one of the men and said, "Hey, that's George. I made a movie with him." And the man he was pointing to was George Raft, who was a movie star back in the 30s. And then he pointed to another man and said, "Hey, and that's me. I found me." Well, the fellow that he pointed to, it turned out was an extra who had no lines in the movie. And eventually, through a lot of work and the efforts of a Hollywood archivist, we were able to identify that man. Well, meanwhile, the mom is sending me emails all the time talking about the statements that this little boy is making about his past life. So he talked about how he had danced on Broadway in New York and then gone to Hollywood. He was in the movies, and then he worked for an agency. He said that he had seen the world on big boats, and he had a house with a big swimming pool. And all of this seemed quite unlikely to me for an extra with no lines in the movie. But when we eventually identified the fella, he in fact had that life. He had danced on Broadway, and he had gone to Hollywood. He was in the movies for a while and then started a successful talent agency. He and his wife went to Europe on the Queen Elizabeth. The little boy had said that the street address had the word rock and the street address of this house was Roxbury. So this was one where the child gave a lot of specific details about someone who lived a long time ago. The fellow had died 50 years before the little boy was born. And it seemed impossible he could have learned about it through normal means. So it looked like there was this connection with this guy's past life. I don't think that we can just map these cases onto mainstream materialistic view of the world. I think what they seem to indicate is that consciousness is not limited just to the physical brain, but can continue on after the brain dominates. Okay.
So yeah, for me, that makes some sense. All right. So in summary, there's different types of intelligence: intellectual intelligence, emotional intelligence, health intelligence, spiritual intelligence. Hearing, learning by hearing, is the highest level of intelligence, not learning by experience, and definitely not learning by experience. And there's a difference between knowing and understanding something. Increasing spiritual intelligence requires humility in knowing that we know nothing, and deliberate choice, and then deliberate practice. And finally, once one has high spiritual intelligence, one can get eternity because he has knowledge of understanding that reincarnation must be true. It's obvious. Therefore, we know we're eternal. Death no longer is a scary thing. Knowledge comes because then you can have actual understanding knowledge of the most important things of the world, and happiness follows. Because because you can actually be peaceful, truly in your life. Because there's nothing to fear. Thank you very much. Any questions?